It's not a good year for Disney, let's be honest about this. They've gone through a lot of failures throughout 2023, starting off with The Little Mermaid, as well as with the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, and let's not forget about Indiana Jones 5, Elemental, and The Marvels, which by the way is on the horizon. But the biggest one of all is for 2024's Snow White, starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into exactly what's going on with Snow White 2024. Now this remake, which by the way was promised by Bob Iger to be a beat-for-beat style of the 37 original back in 2021, he said this. Obviously, those were lies, and those promises were broken, and as it turns out, this film is nothing like the original 37 flick. And that really just goes to show a lot of fans out there that Disney is completely just disregarding their own legacy, where it all began for the Disney animated movies, and how Disney really became quite a pioneer at the time back in the late 30s of producing these animated films. Now, what's interesting about this is that this film is actually gaining a lot of criticism for multiple reasons. Everything happening with the seven dwarfs based on the leaked photographs, as well as Rachel Zegler being cast as Snow White. And a lot of people are still scratching their heads as to why Gal even accepted a movie like this after coming out of Wonder Woman 1984, which didn't really perform all that well as well. On top of this, though, what's interesting is with Snow White 2024 getting into far more issues, Disney is already rushing in to fix the film with re-edits on the horizon for Plan A. Plan B is to reshoot scenes if the writer's strike and SAG ends by November. A series of scenes that are currently in the final cut of the film are set to drive fans out of theaters without a doubt. As it turns out, one of the sequences shot back in June of 2022 involves the magical creatures, aka the dwarfs, that Disney is calling them the creatures in this film. They are actually in their beds that are redesigned to fit the modern edge to Snow White 2024. The beds, however, for all 7 characters appear to have a texture similar to the Game of Thrones Iron Throne. If you guys don't know what that looks like, go ahead and look up an image. No names of the dwarfs are present on each bed like in the 1937 original. The magical creatures, as Disney calls them, however, in this moment are jumping on the beds and singing another song about victory. The context of the sequence, however, is a bit mysterious, but it's believed to take place in the 3rd act after the defeat of the evil queen. Now, another sequence that was later shot in July of 2022, just before filming wrapped, involved the magic mirror on the wall. The mirror is described to be a female with a more human design and appearance and a high-pitched voice than even Gal and Rachel. The mirror on the wall is said to have long blonde hair. However, the skin almost appears zombie-like with a desaturated design with a fog overlay. Now, let me just stop here quick, guys, because we got more to discuss further, but the problem that I have again with this is that Disney is always on a roll with gender swapping out all of the characters that are either a part of the original source material. It's really not a big surprise that Disney would do this, and it just goes to show you that they really are relentless when it comes to all of these agendas that they keep shoving into these movies. Is there really any kind of necessary reason to gender swap the magic mirror of all things? It gets more complex than this though with director Mark Webb. We'll dive into that in 1 second. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they really want to make this an almost near all-female led series, or should I say film, and the fact that this film is going to hold the magical creatures, aka the 7 dwarfs, down to a bare minimum. They want to cut out a lot of scenes. We talked about this. They're getting ready to drastically reduce that, as well as in the marketing. As far as the main characters go, it sounds like that they want to make them all female-led. You know, you got, of course, obviously Snow White and the Evil Queen, but now the Magic Mirror. There's reportedly also another huntsman in this film that's going to be a female, aside another one. There's going to be one huntsman that will be a male, so far as we know, that's going to face Rachel Zegler's Snow White and actually get pretty much, owned by her. That's what's gonna happen. We talked about that whole dagger scene where she takes the dagger and points it at him, and he gives in and tells her where the queen is. But on top of this, director Mark Webb actually changed the magic mirror in July, where previously shot footage showcased the character as a male, with a planned deep voice to be done in post-production through CGI and motion capture work as well. That footage still exists, however currently is not in the final cut as of now, where it stands. Finally, one big important segment that was shot that disrespects the original 37 film is that Zegler shot a scene in where she does get poisoned by the apple. However, in this iteration, she doesn't bite the apple and gets poisoned just by touching it. Disney felt that by her biting the apple and getting poisoned, it would be too extreme for younger audiences to handle. So far as of now, this is and ended up in the final cut by director Mark Webb, and they shot many variations of the apple scene. Now, here's the problem again. Disney is getting way too politically correct, way too safe with these movies. They really are just watering down everything that a lot of people grew up with. I mean, look, I think that is to blame why we're beginning to shift into a generation that really can't take anything too serious. The fact that they have people like Disney throwing this into theaters where they're afraid for Snow White to bite an apple and get poisoned, but they're going to stick with the sequence where she touches the apple and gets poisoned. It seems like nonsense to me. I don't know about you guys, but it really is pure nonsense. It makes no sense at all. And the fact that they even would go through with this and how Mark Webb would give this the go-ahead just goes to show you that Mark Webb is another director that's out of his mind. I mean, yeah, he did work on Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. By the way, I would like to hear your opinion on those films. But this is definitely not the film for him. It most certainly is not. And I'm still shocked to this day that Gal Gadot even signed up for this role. It's really going to tarnish her career to a level if and depending on how big of an impact this movie is going to have on a negative level. If this movie really is going to be Disney's biggest box office failure in history, it's going to carry on with Gal for many, many years to come. Now, I know that her fan base is large enough to survive this most likely, but it's definitely going to take a bite out of her career. There's no question about that. Now, the thing about Disney though with this, the fact that they are going with the magical creatures as they call them, jumping on beds and singing a song, does that not sound creepy to you guys? Like just imagining those leaked photographs that we saw of the 7 dwarfs, the creatures, whatever. It just makes you laugh to yourself, the fact that they're going through with this, and that they are modernizing beds in the Snow White film to make them have textures similar to that of the Game of Thrones Iron Throne, to kind of give it like that real edgy look to it all. So I would like to hear everybody's take on this below in the comments about these various sequences that were shot back in the summer of 2022. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.